Now I know what I'm doing with the rest of my day.
What more can I say? I want to make a mace. I've come to a distressing realization. It's been a very long time since I've made my inner 12-year-old happy. So I'm going to make a smashy thing. Specifically, a mace. One very loosely inspired by the Minecraft mace that was just recently released. I saw that, I thought it was cool, so I gotta have one. So let's do it. Let's get cracking. Here's some of the stuff we're going to need. If I've left anything off of this list, I'm sure I'll forget to include it later. A utility knife, some foam, inch thick. I forget what this is exactly called. I think it's XDM foam, but don't quote me on that. A speed square, some all thread. I think this is a 1/4 inch. And then we need some wood for the handle. I think we need to go punch a tree. There we go. This is a piece of 1 1/4 inch oak.
Can you tell these blades are getting dull? Because I couldn't for some reason. No big deal. I don't see any consequences coming from this. I'm going to use this first square to mark out the others. This line I'm drawing from corner to corner so I can find the center of each piece. This is to help me form the hole in the center that's going to make this socket for the handle to fit into. Now my drill press drills in 5 different speeds, and I wanted to test and see which one left the cleanest hole. I didn't notice much of a difference, but you know what? We tried them all. For science! Next comes a lot of really messy and dusty rinse and repeat hole drilling. I probably should have worn a mask when I was doing this because there's a lot of particulate flying around, but... Where was I? Oh, right. Anyway, you'll notice that I flipped the piece over halfway through drilling as soon as that post dips through. That's to help prevent tear out as the drill bit pokes through. The hole isn't exactly clean all the way through, but that's not a huge deal because the foam is really soft, and I can actually use the dowel I'm using for the handle to clean up the hole before I cast anything. This line I'm struggling to mark here is going to be the outside edge of the bottom socket where the handle is going to attach. You'll notice it kept stopping. That's because it kept squishing and crunching inside the lathe jaws. I kept having to tighten it so that the lathe would have enough purchase on there. But once I got the corners knocked down, I didn't have much trouble at all. Now I've got all the pieces I need to make the base of the mace, so I'm gonna... Ooh, that was fun. Base of the mace. Anyway, I've got all the pieces I need, so I'm gonna glue them all together using some tacky glue.
Yeah, I think that's about as good as we're gonna get. That looks pretty straight. So put a little weight on top of there, and then we'll wait for the glue to dry. So it's the next day. This thing glued up really nice. All the layers stuck together really well. But we have a problem. That is the crucible, the biggest one I have, that will fit in my furnace. Now we're going to be running a little close. I hope that I can fit enough aluminum in there to fill that mace head. But just in case, I'm going to make a backup that's just a little smaller. So we're going to go with the original plan and make one that's 3 inches instead of 4 inches. Hopefully that'll work. So let's make the backup. We'll go with plan A. If that doesn't work, we'll go with plan B. So this is something I've never really actually used. It's a hot wire cutter that I tried making a few years ago that never really worked. See, it's supposed to run off of those really big, are they 9 volts? Oh, they're bigger than 9 volts. What are they? It's supposed to run off these really big batteries, they just clip on there. And it never really got hot enough to cut the wire. They never really got hot enough to cut any foam, and I think the problem is that it's just so long that it just doesn't have the power to heat up the wire. So what I'm going to try and do is to cut, 6 inches or so off of the arm and shorten the wire here, and see if shortening the line will give us the resistance or the heat that we need so that we can get the wire hot enough to cut through some of this foam, so that we can maybe, so that we can cut through some of the edges here, or so that we can make some spikes to go on the mace.
Yeah, that was a much better cut. Look at that. Cool.
There was a bit of a learning curve with making these spikes. Especially on the small one, these spikes are really small. On the base, they're about 1 inch wide, so they're pretty darn small, and that means there's not a lot of clearance on the small edge. So I burned my fingers a number of times until I figured out that I could use a very advanced tool, it's called a stick, to push them through. I also had some trouble getting a consistent point on them for some reason, and I can't exactly remember why. So I have several that just ended up going in the trash bin, but eventually I figured it out, and for the life of me, I don't remember what I was doing. And despite my earlier excitement about how well this was cutting, it was still just going painfully slow. For reference, this was sped up to about 1800 times, and this is actual speed. Pretty bad, I know. I had to figure something else out. These sides need to be flat so that the spikes have a good surface to stick to. And that's why we're sanding it against a piece of MDF. It's really flat, but god dang, this is just taking way too long. So off camera I used my belt sander and it just went way faster. And once again, we just spread around that tacky glue and line up the corners to the X's. And there you go, one spiky foam mace. Now this next step is absolutely crucial for lost foam casting. What I'm mixing up here is some watered down drywall foam. This is going to create a shell around the foam for us to pour our molten metal into. It's going to be very thin. Mostly what I'm aiming for is just to ensure that everything gets covered. I want to make sure that everything gets even and coated to make sure that no aluminum leaks through. I especially want to make sure the socket in the center here gets coated well because I don't want any aluminum leaking into here. I really want to make sure nothing leaks. So after this first thin coat, we'll add up several layers after that to make sure it gets nice and thick. We'll make sure that the coat inside the socket is very thick to make sure nothing leaks inside. I'll keep building up coats of plaster, build up a shell. I forget how many I've done at this point. I want to say it's up to like 4 or 5, which is probably overkill, but at the same time, did too many coats of plaster kill anybody?
Maces. We're doing maces. It's been almost 2 months since I last filmed anything. I think now is the time for excuses. Hear me out. It's been a combination of life has been crazy busy and I'm really scared to screw this up. Let me walk you through the project part of what's been going on. The plaster has been taking a long time to dry, especially on the inside of the mace head, on the inside of the socket. On the outside, it takes maybe a day for the plaster to cure. On the inside, it's been taking about 3 days per coat. The outside I think I'm at 5 layers, which is probably overkill. You probably don't need to do that many, but on the inside, I really want to make sure that we don't have any aluminum leakage on the inside. I really want to make sure we keep that clear so that the hole can fit right in there and then I don't have to do a whole lot of trying to drill that out and just don't want to deal with that mess. So, we've got a lot of layers on the inside of there, and like I said, it's been taking about 3 days to cure on the inside, and a lot of the layers have had a lot of cracking. So I've had to put in a layer, wait for it to fill, and then fill in cracks, and then wait for that to dry, rinse and repeat, like I said, 5 times. So I've got a lot invested in this, and I'm really scared for this to go wrong. But at this point, I've procrastinated for so long that had I tried and failed, I could have made another one. And so there's really no point for me procrastinating any longer, because if I screw up, I can just do it again and stop wasting time. So let's just do it. I gotta melt something. Let's get cracking. Let's get cracking. We got melt stuff. Crack, go, crack, melt stuff, cracking. Do it, this, that thing.
No, that takes a full crucible, and that was the little one. Well, we'll give that half an hour, cool off, and we'll check it and we'll see.
Alright, moment of truth. It's been about an hour. Oh, I hope this works. Oh, it looks good. Oh, yes. Right. Don't see any major shrinkage. Oh, well. On top there's some bulging. Guess you can call that shrinkage. Overall, this looks pretty darn good. Oh. Don't have to do a whole lot of cleanup either. This turned out pretty good. Awesome. Even see through the sprues. I don't know if you can see on camera here, but those worked, which I'm pleasantly surprised by. Right. Yeah, that can's on there. Pretty good. Alright, well, let's cut her off and clean her up, and yeah, I gotta get better shoes on. These Crocs aren't gonna do. Let's get to work.
Akira. He's got clout.
Hacksaw. I don't know how well you can tell. It's kind of, the light isn't great for this, but all that extra time I spent on that core really seems to have paid off. It's quite clean in there. I can even see the layer lines between the different layers of foam in there. So, minimal cleanup, which is exactly what we wanted. In fact, let's see if the shaft fits in there. Okay, false start, because we got that little tab there. Give me a minute to clean that up, but it's close. That's on there. Good too, I like that.
Whew. That was fun, but I don't really want to clean this up. I need a dog! Anyway, I had a lot of fun with this one. If you have any ideas of other things I should make, let me know. I might even do it. Guess barley doesn't like watermelon. Catch you in the next one, guys. Now go make something cool.